Hey guys, ha! Welcome to the show. My producer was a little distracted in the beginning, that being me, and so I'm Mary Grace. This is Mary Grace TV. We are actually coming to you for episode 13 of Conspiracy of Truth with Mary Grace and Praying Medic. Crazy that we've done that many. Everybody loves this show. If you're new to this show, I will explain just a little bit about what's going on here. This is a show where we talk about all kinds of things. And picture, if you will, two friends uh, getting on a video call and just catching up and talking about things that have been happening in the news, things that have been happening in our lives, things that have been happening in the spiritual realm, all across many spectrums of information and thought. That's what this show is. It's not an interview like you may be expecting, where I ask a bunch of questions and then one person answers. We do have some like that on the channel, but this is not that. It's really a conversation. And one of the things that we love to do here is really just go back and forth. And we're unscripted on this segment. And we just really like having these conversations. And one of the reasons that it's unscripted is just because we don't really have time to script it. So if I'm being honest. That's just what's true. Now listen, all of my people over on YouTube, their YouTube is okay. I'm going to say nice things about YouTube, but you read between the lines if you can. YouTube is amazing. YouTube has some incredible content. YouTube is a platform that's been around for a long time, and a lot of people have grown their channels and brands on YouTube. And sometimes YouTube gets jealous of other channels and other content. And because of that, sometimes we have to cut our YouTube stream short and direct people to those other places. And if that happens today, the easiest way to find those other places is to go to my website, marygracemedia.com, and then go find another place to listen. And we'll keep everybody happy because we have to do some codependence with them. That's how this is. We have to enable them. And yeah. So that's how this works. Anyway, but welcome. As you're here today, remember to hit the thumbs up, hit the likes, share everywhere that you can, and send this to other people so that they know that we're on the show and that we're live. So Dave Hayes, Praying Medic, we're back, and we've got a great show lined up today. I'm excited. I love these conversations. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me back on your awesome show. You need a longer intro. I didn't have enough time to post on Facebook, post on Twitter. Once the live stream went, but hey, I'm going to stop complaining.
Do you
And
want me
it's good to see you
do you want
again.
me to do you want me to chat? Do you need a filler?
It's fine. No, you
Oh,
were chatting. It's fine. I just,
okay. Can somebody help Post Pirate on Rumble who's having no sound? They may need to hit the little sound icon over there. If I say something to him or her, they're not going to hear it because they don't have any sound.
probably not.
I can't help you. So we've got a lot of oldies and goodies here. Christy, one of the best moderators around. She's over on YouTube and Rumble. How does she do it? Like, you know, juggling. We got Nancy over on Facebook, Catherine on YouTube. Lots of people. Net Katie, I don't know if I've seen you before, but hi. Hopefully the people on YouTube got my message earlier about maybe relocating in a little while. Oh, there's Audrey. Yeah. So we got some OG listeners, which is great. I love that. Love having people come back. So Dave, every time we go live, I make a joke and I say, slow news week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
obviously
it's
that's
for
tongue in
some reason whenever we go live, there's always all kinds of crazy news breaking and
yeah.
like drinking from a fire hose. What do we talk about?
Yeah, we had, by the way, we did have this on the calendar before anybody got bombed or anybody set themselves on fire or any bridges collapsed. Uh
Yep.
before jurors got excused for posting severed head memes, all of that. We had this all planned. We didn't have the conversation planned, but this was on the calendar. We just didn't know that it was gonna be cray, like a cray week, but we should expect that. So what do you wanna start with?
I don't know. What do you want to start with? Burning Man moves to New York. I mean, Trump is
Oh,
apparently under a gag order, and some people
yeah.
don't like his behavior, so they light themselves on fire or something. The
Y
world is going kind of crazy.
Can I add something really bizarre to that?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So, oh, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. Ben Moore. Ben Moore, he is what's his, Sun
Benjamin Moore,
Q?
the paint company.
Sun's Q, no, Sun
Oh,
Q.
Sun Tzu Q.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Sun
Yeah.
Tzu Q, sorry. Um, Hold on a second. So, he said something crazy. He said that when he first joined, America's Future, so for those of you who don't know, he's part of General Flynn's foundation, and he's a lawyer, and he is helping to fight the human trafficking with, Mary Flynn O'Neill and General Flynn's foundation, americasfuture.net. He said something bizarre. He said that he and his brother went into was it a restaurant? And
I
this
forget,
exact
but yeah, they
okay,
had an interaction with this guy.
the Burning Man guy came
Him.
up to them and, like, singled them out. It was obvious that he was singling them out to the point where they had a conversation about it later and said, was that weird? Was he targeting us? Was he singling us out?" And I don't know, in all the coincidences in all the world where you could have a guy who sets himself on fire, who is later identified as having approached 2 of our guys who are very active in a movement that President Trump has openly endorsed, which is combating human trafficking. I mean, what are the odds of that? Just, like,
Yeah,
how really?
yeah, pretty strange.
Crazy.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so that's just a random thing. But let's talk about the trials. I think
okay.
I want to talk about the trials a little bit, what's going on in New York, and I also want to talk about how Trump has gamed it because he's working it.
Trump is working some serious 5D chess with
Yeah,
these trials, I think, and they still have not figured him out.
I know, it's crazy.
Uh,
And you know what I love is that, you know, I still love the way that he somehow has allowed the media to persist in their notion that he's just, a backwards, kinda slow talking, like, smooth-brained idiot that can't put one foot in front of the other. I mean, they project a lot because let's
yeah,
face it, there is somebody
they're-
like that in the White House, it's just not Trump.
yeah, it is interesting. They're still trying to portray him as this bumbling buffoon
Yeah, yeah,
who can't get out of his own way,
and so what
even
happened?
though
Yeah,
he has repeatedly over the last 8 years outmaneuvered them and turned them into pretzels. And they still think that they're still trying to portray him as some dumb rube who doesn't know anything. It's
yeah,
really crazy.
yeah.
Although I was listening to a CNN little clip somebody posted on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, a little clip of someone on CNN, a legal analyst, who actually dared to say the thing that you're not supposed to say on CNN. Uh, there was this back and forth about Trump and his legal problems, and oh, he might go to jail, and then there's this question of like the judge, if Trump violates the gag order that's on him right now, then the judge has to have sort of like a legal proceeding, a hearing to determine if Trump is going to be held in contempt. Is it going to be civil contempt or is it going to be criminal contempt?
Okay.
And then is Trump going to end up actually spending time in jail? And this attorney then said, and boy, if you think that the mugshot didn't really raise his numbers, pictures of him being in jail is just going to excite his base even more. And that's maybe
Yeah.
not exactly what we want. Yeah, you think so?
Really? Oh, you think? Huh, gosh.
I I
Yeah,
actually think I suspect there's probably a better than 50% chance that Trump is trying to get himself thrown in jail
yeah.
so he can have the photo opportunity. Um, it's gonna, oh God,
I
Trump
know,
is
I
he
know.
is he is the P.T. Barnum of politics. There's no
Yeah,
such thing as bad publicity when it comes to Trump. And
yeah.
photos of him being in a jail cell, oh my gosh,
I
it,
know, I know.
it's
He's
just
he's
they can't seem to figure out that this is actually what Trump wants.
yeah.
He's been posting on True Social that he's willing to be the Nelson Mandela of our generation. Like,
And what
you
more
know,
can you
he's
say?
telling you
But
guys what his game plan is, and they're
half
not
these
figuring.
people don't know who M Nelson Mandela is, so
Yeah,
that's part
yeah,
of the problem because 'cause they're all, like, 12 years old, and they don't
true.
know history, so that's going over their heads, but I'm trying to find a picture. The funny thing is, okay, so you're Trump, right? And you get brought into New York, and you've got this crazy judge that hates you, more than one, and you are told that you absolutely cannot leave, you can't even go to your son's graduation, and if you gotta be there for every single, minute of this trial. So, basically, he's held captive in New York, right? So what does he
Yep,
do? He's like, "I'm a campaign. I'm gonna win
he's
New
going to
York."
campaign in New
He's
York.
like, "Let's do it." He goes
What
and
the heck?
he's a PR guy, and people, they forget that too, like, he's a master of media. So what does he do? He's like, "Okay, camera crew, let's go. Put out a press release. Where should we go today? Bodega. Where should we go now? Here, there, everywhere." And, the funny thing is that he puts the Biden campaign, such as it is, on their heels every time. And so you have this reactionary campaign of them bringing the geriatric into a bodega and into a,
And everyone's looking at him like, "Oh my gosh, who let him in? Get him out of
yeah,
here."
it's like, and so then it creates an even bigger contrast, of who Trump is and just how amazing he is. I just think it's the funniest thing, and so not only is he trying to get the good press, he's just saying, we're gonna win that. We're gonna win it. We're going for New York." Like, and here's the thing, guys. New York is historically 70% Democrat. They voted for Hillary Clinton, the okay, I could say words, but they're gonna stay in my head. Hillary Clinton, by 70%, and especially in the city, and you've got all these people turning out for him, in these boroughs who are absolutely 100% for him, and they're all people of color, and they're going, "Trump, Trump, we love Trump." And then the other people, the Biden campaign is like, "Oh, we better get him down to a bodega." No, actually, you should keep him home. I just think it's so funny. All right, I'm trying to find this picture that I wanna show because I wanna talk about persecution. So you talk a little bit because 'cause I'm trying to find this picture on my phone, and
Uh,
it's
talking
super
to, well, yeah, it's interesting. The cases are kind of rolling out. The case in Florida, the classified documents case, Judge Cannon has been ruling on some of the motions that Trump's legal team has been bringing forward. He hasn't been getting a lot of wins on his motions. However, with every ruling that Judge Cannon puts out, she kind of smacks down Jack Smith in the special counsel's office in her ruling where she denies Trump's motion. She'll take a swing at the special counsel's office for their stupidity. And we have a very big case coming up in front of the Supreme Court next week. All eyes should be on this. If you're able to actually listen in, if they live stream the legal arguments, you might want to listen into that. If you're on X/Twitter, Leslie McAdoo Gordon and Shipwrecked Crew uh,
Mhm.
and a couple other attorneys have been doing kind of a wash up, an after action report whenever a big Trump case goes in front of the Supreme Court. And I would imagine when his case goes in front of the Supreme Court this next week, this is going to be the presidential immunity case. This is ones for all the marbles. If the Supreme Court rules that Trump does have presidential immunity from presidential actions,
Mhm.
it sinks Jack Smith's case. Most of this stuff is going to fall apart. Last week, they had oral arguments on the obstruction of an official proceeding charge that they've been charging a lot of the J6 defendants with.
Right,
Trump
right.
is also charged with obstructing an official proceeding. Listening to especially Neil Gorsuch and a couple of the other justices, it looks like they're going to rule that that charge cannot be used against J6 defendants because historically, if you read that rule, it's referring to judicial proceedings. It
Mhm.
specifically in Part A talks about presenting evidence, destruction of evidence, hiding evidence. Right. This is in relation to a criminal or judicial proceeding, and then the next part is whoever corruptly interferes with or obstructs an official proceeding. It's not talking about a congressional hearing, a congressional proceeding. It's talking about a judicial proceeding. And I
Right.
think that the Supreme Court justices are going to rule that that statute cannot be used for J6 defendants because there was no, first of all, there wasn't a judicial proceeding going on.
Right.
Secondly, there's evidence, strong evidence, that a lot of these people did not know that they were obstructing or interfering with anything. A lot of them
Right.
were just there to kind of gawk, look at the halls of Congress, see what's going on. They weren't there to obstruct anything. So I think that's going to fall by the wayside. But next week is the big one where they're going to do oral arguments on
Okay.
the presidential immunity,
Okay.
and that'll be an interesting oral argument. So did you find
Well,
what you're looking for?
yeah, and Trump is talking about this. He's saying that every president needs immunity,
Right,
and so it is going to be interesting to see how this falls. Now, the other case, the case about obstruction, I think this is interesting because from what I understand, this is based on the Enron scandal, and it came out as a result of the fact that you had employees and traders literally shredding documents, leading up to the investigation and trial of the Enron,
right,
debacle, and so it's a completely different type
right. That
of
it shredding documents that have been
yeah,
subpoenaed, that is actual obstruction of
yeah,
justice.
yeah,
You
and
know,
and
I mean,
and
come on.
yeah. I also when you talk about obstructing a judicial procedure, it reminds me of when I was up in DC in October of 2018 during the Kavanaugh hearings, when I was out there live streaming, and some of my OG followers remember this. I was live streaming, and it was a little scary because all of the leftists, the pro-murder abortion crowd, they were out there banging on the doors of the Supreme Court. This was before, you saw barricades going up around these buildings. It wasn't the case at the time. People were going into the gallery was open in the Congress when they were having the hearings and the debates, and in the Senate, and so people were going in as citizens have a right to do. They were going through the metal detector and getting in, but they were disrupting that hearing. There were people who had to be escorted out by the sergeant of arms. Nothing happened to them, but then you had people literally trying to beat down the doors of the Supreme Court, that's on I'm sure I have that on video somewhere where I was standing and I was asking my listeners, "Please watch my back," because I don't know what these people are gonna do because they were that, agitated and inflamed. So
Well,
whatever happened to those people?
Gorsuch brought that up during the oral arguments.
Good.
So when the Solicitor
Yeah.
General was arguing her case, Gorsuch said, "What about that time when Brett Kavanaugh's was being attacked and vilified, and all these people were protesting outside the Supreme Court. What about the time of back in 2020 when we had these summer of mostly peaceful protests?
Yeah,
How did none of those people end up getting charged with this statute? He brought up several uh, past incidents where leftist protesters, nothing happened to them. And he's asking, is this, it's the equal application of the law, and it's clear
sure.
that it's not being applied equally.
Yeah, I'm glad. I think I do remember hearing something to that effect, that it was a line of questioning that he had. And I think he said something really interesting because the attorney for they say for the people, right? The DOJ. I'm like, I don't can't think of any people that you're representing, but she said something and he goes, "We've already been around that tree." It's really interesting the way he said it. So, and the interesting thing too is when you see these people going before justices like Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, these justices are smart. They're really smart and they have very quick minds.
Yep.
And the people going up against them don't always fall into that category. And so you do get to see some intellectual spankings when you listen to these oral arguments.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, the oral arguments on the Colorado presidential ballot attempt to keep Trump off the Colorado ballot. That attorney that went in front of the court to argue that case, holy cats, is that guy wet behind the ears? It was really painful listening to that kid get smacked by all of the
yeah,
justices, just one after another. It was kind of
yeah, it can be entertaining.
yeah.
So I did want to say something. Speaking of young, the opposite is the case with. I'm going to show you guys this picture. I don't have it up on the screen, but I'm just going to hold it up. This is very interesting. Okay, we know who that is. That's young. That's Barron Trump, 18 years old now. Just had a birthday in March. And I'll show you the full picture because this is crazy. That's President Trump. Look how tall he is. And then that's Beau Loudon on the other side. And so this is so interesting because I don't know if you guys have noticed that since Barron turned 18, there's more out there, more photos. They kind of had him sequestered and hidden away, just being a regular guy, kid. And obviously that's because of, the just the wicked Trump derangement syndrome. And he basically, they moved to Florida and kept him there, and he's in a good school there and has a little bit of a sheltered life from the media. But at the same time, I was listening to Valuetainment. They were talking about I can't remember the guy's name, Patrick
Patrick Bet David.
David, yeah. He had dinner with Barron, and he was just talking about how uh, utterly engaging Barron is, and how smart and how on top of everything he is. And one thing that people don't realize is that Barron speaks, I think, 3, maybe 4 languages. He was raised by a mom who speaks multiple languages, who is internationally traveled. His grandmother spent time in Paris. Just, these are very well educated people and very smart, and who have a lot of worldly wisdom as well, and a deep faith. And my point about this is that I kind of feel bad for the people who underestimated a future Barron Trump. I kinda like, I pity the fool because they completely just forgot that there's an 18-year-old Trump on the scene and that he has witnessed everything that they did to his dad, everything, and his mom. Um,
He
yeah.
could be a formidable opponent one day.
Yeah, yeah, I just I really think about that, you know? And yeah, I think people really need to get their house in order and make some things right because I don't think he's going away. I don't. And I think it's gonna be very interesting. And, it's interesting because one of the things that I talk about a lot is that Trump thinks generationally. And imagine the conversations that he's had with his son, Barron, that and also Melania, and then imagine the conversations he's had with Barron and Eric and Melania and Don Jr., and just imagine, like, wouldn't you like to be a fly on the wall about everything that Trump has been through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's also got Jared Kushner in his
Yeah, yeah.
sphere of influence.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So, I'm just I'm kind of excited to see what the future is gonna bring with him, obviously, he has
yeah.
to go to school and, that kind of thing, but man, yeah, these people don't know what's coming for them, I don't think. So, hey, listen, if you're just coming into the show, everybody, this is Mary Grace TV. We are talking about Conspiracy of Truth, episode 13. I have with me Dave Hayes, also known as Praying Medic. Looks like we have quite a few people watching on the Rumble and hopefully on the Twitter. And yeah, we've got 400 and some live on Rumble. If you could, here's what I need you to do. Hit the chat, hit the like, wherever you are. Thumbs up, like, follow, subscribe. What else? There's all kinds of actions that you take to help us get seen on the algorithm. Repost, retweet, share, tag others. What else do I say? But the whole point is get the word out and let's get the numbers up. We've got a total of almost 800 people watching live. Let's get it up to 1,000. And while we're at it, if you just got here and you didn't know that we were live, it's probably because you weren't on my mailing list. So let's fix that right now. Go to marygracemedia.com, get on the email list so that you can get notified when we have shows like this and others. You will get an email and then you can just click on whatever channel you want to watch on and go directly from there. And while you're at marygracemedia.com, don't forget to go to the shopping tab and take advantage of all the America First companies that we have over there that you can buy, like, pretty much all the things. There's nothing that you need that you can't find on my channel, except maybe a radio like Dave uses.
Do
But
you have ammunition?
we'll fix it. Okay, fine. We do have gold and silver. So that's a certain kind of metal that you can get. We have towels. We have the Flynn movie right there, General Flynn's movie. If you need to get it, if you want to watch it, you want to find out where it's going to be live and he's going to be making an appearance, go there, flynnmovie.com, referral code Mary Grace, all kinds of stuff. But it's all right there. And I just want to make sure people get the memo that if you are late to the show, it's because you weren't on the email list. So let's fix that. All right, back to the show.
Buy silver.
Well then, okay,
Buy silver now.
let me put my link up. Hold on a second. Okay, we got two people we work with here for gold and silver, and that's Andrew Sorcini over at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.com, bh-pm.com. Tell them Mary Grace sent you. I think people may have the feeling, oh, it's too late. It went up to 27 or 29.
It's not too late.
I don't think it's too late. I don't think it's
Nope.
too late.
It's
We
not.
also have Kirk Elliott. So Kirk Elliott, PhD. Some of you have worked with him in the past. Both are good. We've vetted both of them. People like having choices, so we work with both companies. It's America, so you can have a choice. Kirk Elliott,
I'm going to weigh
PhD.com.
in on the silver issue, if I may.
Please do. Yeah.
All right.
And,
So, was it a week, maybe 10 days ago? I had a dream where silver found support at the current level where it was at. I think it was around between $28 and $29. And it wasn't actually there yet. It was still around $27 an ounce. It was on its way up. And I had this dream where I was showing somebody how to evaluate price support, resistance and support for investing. And I was explaining to this person how to evaluate that. And as we were evaluating the price support on silver, it was like, wow, silver has like rock solid support at $28.50 or $29, wherever it was at that point. It was between $28 and $29. God has been talking to me for more than 10 years about silver as an investment. Um, I, yes, silver has finally broken through the resistance at 26 and 27 and 28, and silver hit 29 again yesterday before it closed, and it came pulled back a little bit. I think 28.50 to 29 is the new floor for silver. I think it's going to go up from there. I think gold is going to continue to go up. Silver is going up faster. Uh, so in the last 6 months, gold has increased by about 30%. In the last 6 weeks, silver has increased by 33%. Silver is on a much faster rate of ascent. Now, granted, there are a lot of short sellers who are trying to hammer the price of silver down. I think those people are going to have a difficult time moving forward, keeping the price of silver down. I think silver is going up.
Okay,
So
interesting.
I
Yeah.
rarely do I ever give people investing advice, but if you're looking for some investing advice, I would say get some freaking silver and put it in a safe in your house.
And
Uh,
I think, yeah, this is great. This is great. And one thing I will say about this is that everybody's in a different place when it comes to acquiring precious metals. Some people have portfolios, right? You might have an IRA, you might have a retirement account. The people that I'm putting up on the screen here, KirkElliottPhD.com, Andrew Sorcini over at Beverly Hills Precious Metals, they're working with you on that scale. Okay, so if you're worried about your nest egg, or if you have a lot of cash in the bank and you're thinking, I don't know what's going on with the banks, these are the guys you call because they're going to help you trade everything over to physical precious metals. Yeah, Dave.
One more thing I'd like to add.
Yeah.
In, let's see, the last, since mid-March, the I'm not sure if it's the Dow or the Nasdaq has lost 2,000 points. The tech bubble looks like it popped yesterday. There's been this massive run up in the Nasdaq with all these tech stocks, Google, Facebook, Nvidia, and Microsoft, all these tech stocks, the Magnificent Seven, they call them. They've been leading this massive run up in the stock market. And it looked like a .com bubble. It looked like the 2000 .com bubble that we had. That's
Hmm.
what this thing looked like, where all this momentum was going into these tech stocks,
Yeah.
and they were just
Yeah.
dragging the index higher. And yesterday, there was a massive sell-off in the tech sector.
Interesting.
A lot of the chip companies are massively hemorrhaging. Tesla is hemorrhaging. A lot of tech stocks
Yeah.
are in a downward spiral, and I don't think it's going. Gold is going higher. Uh, the the yield on Treasury notes is going higher. I think interest rates are
Hmm.
eventually going to push higher as well. The economy is going to stall, and a lot of these tech stocks that people have been investing in, I don't think that's going to be a good investment. Like I said, if it's me, I would start thinking about gold and silver. Like I said, I rarely give financial investing advice, but
Hmm.
if you're looking for some advice from a guy who has dreams, that's my advice.
Well, it's corroborating with some things that I've heard from other people, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. So this is very interesting. And again, guys, this conversation we're having is unscripted. We didn't talk about this. I happen to have two partners that I work with here, affiliate partners that can help you answer a lot of questions about your retirement savings and your cash in the bank. So, like, let's say you sold a house and you've got a bunch of cash and you're not ready to buy anything else right now and you want to secure that money, these are the people that you call and have that conversation with them. Okay. uh, and so we've got bh-pm.com, tell them Mary Grace sent you, or kirkelliottphd.com. Both. We work with both of them. Everybody's had great experience with both. Anybody that's worked with them. Now, if you have a smaller amount, let's say that you have, several $100s, or you want to buy a little bit every month, this is not your resource. What we do with that is you're going to go to your local dealer, and A lot of them have Google pages. Look at the reviews, read the comments, and see how they deal with people. Typically, when you go in a place like that and you buy a silver ounce or you buy 10 ounces of silver or whatever it is, they're going to test the purity for you right there on the spot and show you that it is what they say it is. And so you want to go to a reputable shop. It's typically a coin shop, a place that may buy gold. Every town has one. You may have to go over a town or two to find one, or just ask, like, word of mouth. Those are the kind of places where you're going to get those ones and twosies that you want. And that there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people do that. People go every paycheck and buy an ounce or two, and just squirrel it away. There's nothing wrong with that, guys. That's a good investment depending on where you are. And so don't feel like just because you can't call one of my guys that you're not in a position to start saving and stacking silver and or gold. My friend Kevin Lynn, who's been on the show, I want to go back to what Dave said about the market, because he is he's very big into metals, but he also invests in the market. And I asked him about silver and gold last week, and he sent me a video. I don't have the link right now, but I can tell you the name of it. If you go on YouTube and look up the name David Hunter, the title of the video is $60 to $75 silver in this melt up phase. This analyst, David Hunter, apparently has been in the market for like 50 years. He's explaining things almost exactly the way Dave just explained it based on his dreams, which is very interesting. And
Hmm.
so, you have to decide, this is something that you pray through and talk to your family about, especially if you have other people that you're responsible for. Make an informed decision. We always say, don't be scared, be prepared. And so, getting reliable information is not always easy, but the information that I'm getting is from people that I know to be trustworthy in this area, and that's why I've reached out to them. So you do with it what you will. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not licensed. Dave is not licensed. We have to give you this disclaimer. We're not telling you what to do, but we're telling you what we're observing other people with really solid track records doing. Okay? So make of that what you will.
Can I say one more thing that might be a
Yes.
segue to another topic?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. If you, unless you've been hiding under a rock this week, you may have noticed that Israel and Iran have been going at it.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, the very night that Israel retaliated against Iran, Bitcoin cratered. Bitcoin does not like war. I'm just going to tell you that. Now, I have people asking me all the time what I think about cryptocurrencies. And what we found out this week, whenever there's any kind of significant military action going on, Bitcoin seems to start cratering. If we get into a long sustained war in the Middle East between Iraq, Iran, well, Iraq got hit last night, between Iran and Israel, especially if Russia gets dragged into it and we get dragged into it, or if NATO ends up sending troops into Ukraine, I would expect cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin to continue to go down. For whatever reason, people don't trust much in cryptocurrencies when war is breaking out. At the same time that Bitcoin was going down, silver and gold were going up. During the days when the attacks were happening between Iran and Israel. So that's another, that's a subject we could talk about, what's been happening in the Middle East. I've been following pretty closely news accounts out of the Middle East. I've found some reputable open source intelligence people on Twitter that I follow, and they have led me to some other people on Twitter that I follow, some of whom are tweeting in Arabic, some are tweeting in Hebrew, which makes it interesting.
I noticed you've been reposting all those. Yeah.
Yeah. I found some reputable sources of information in the Middle East. And what I'm doing is I'm following them. And as they update and bring news and video and information, I'm retweeting them in English so people know what's going on from reputable sources. That's what I'm trying to do. So, um, so Israel um, finally decides to take a swing at Iran directly in Iranian territory for the first time, and um, Iran pretty much acted like it never happened, which was very interesting.
I know,
Uh,
yeah, I noticed you commenting on that, yeah.
yes. Um, there's a strategic reason why Iran did not make a big deal of it. Um, from the first strike in Iran by Israel, it appears as though there were no fatalities and no injuries. They essentially hit
Interesting.
a radar installation that is next to the Natanz nuclear facility. The Natanz nuclear facility is kind of notorious because that's a place where Iran does a lot of enriches uranium for its for its use, whatever you use uranium for. Now, Iran is not going to say that they're building nuclear weapons with
Mhm.
that uranium,
You don't
but
think they will?
that is one of the uses for
Yeah.
uranium. So my takeaway from that little event was they hit the radar station that protects the Natanz nuclear facility. They didn't hit anything else. They just hit that radar installation. And I think Israel was sending Iran a message. And here's the message: we can hit any target in your country that we want. We're not hitting your nuclear facility this time. We're just letting you know that whatever we target, we can hit, and you are defenseless to stop us. They and So there was another attack last night. This one was in Iraq. It was on PMF, Iraqi, an Iraqi military installation that is backed by, funded by Iran. So it's run by the Iraqis, but it's funded by Iran. And they hit a couple of munition depots where there's a lot of ammunition, shells, and you could see this ammunition going off once it was hit. Uh, the battle damage assessment, there was large craters. It looks like probably some Israeli jets flew over, fired some missiles, and blew up some munition depots. Again, in Iraqi territory. And once again, Iran is kind of acting like it never happened. Like, we didn't see anything, even though
Mhm.
there were dozens of people that were injured and I think one or two people killed. Um, Iran is again acting like this did not happen.
This
Which,
begs the question.
yeah, go ahead.
I have questions. When when Israel has shown that they have this capability to, like, reach out and touch Iran and put them on notice, what was happening on October 7th when all hell broke loose in Gaza? Because, Israel has shown us that they have this capability, but somebody was asleep at the wheel clearly that
Yep,
day.
yep. There was actually orders to stand down in the
Yeah.
early hours before that raid happened. That whole thing is very, very suspicious.
Mhm.
Um,
Speaking of
there's
conspiracies.
still there's still this argument going on between Israeli intelligence and Bibi Netanyahu's office, saying that Netanyahu's office is saying they didn't tell us what was coming, and the Israeli intelligence is saying, "Oh, yes, we did," and he told them to stand down. There was clearly a breach in security the morning of that
Yeah,
attack,
yeah,
and everyone's obviously wondering how the hell did this happen? They have plenty of troops, plenty of ability to stop anyone coming into that through that
yeah,
through
yeah.
that gate, that corridor, and for some reason they didn't that particular morning. It just doesn't. It smells funny. Something's going on.
Yeah, yeah, it does, yeah, and
Um,
especially since we know Hamas is directly part of Iran, um, that it's a state-sponsored terrorist group, right? So,
yeah,
yeah, whatever's happening over there, it's very interesting,
it,
and
it's made even worse by the fact that we know that Biden isn't calling the shots with
right,
respect to foreign policy. Biden is
right,
not. Biden may and his team of people. Okay, so you have to kind of just remember that the White House has different factions that are calling the shots inside the White House. You have Joe Biden, Jim Biden, and the Biden cronies who have their interests in making certain things happen uh,
mhm,
with with respect to U.S. domestic foreign policy and also with Ukraine, because the Bidens are wrapped up in Ukraine like the
big
Gordian
time,
knot.
yeah,
That's where a lot of their funding comes from. By the way, everyone now knows probably that Congress just passed another bill to fund another, is it $90 billion for Ukraine? I think 40 billion for
yeah,
Israel for the wars. A lot of that money makes its way into Ukrainian banks, gets laundered, comes back to U.S. politicians, including um,
mhm,
Joe Biden and his cronies.
mhm,
So the Biden crimes family is running part of the White House operation,
mhm,
but the Obama syndicate with Valerie Jarrett, John Kerry, Samantha Power, those people, they're running another part of the White House. Their big interest is the Middle East,
okay,
um,
that
especially
makes
with
sense.
Valerie Jarrett. Valerie Jarrett is the linchpin. I think she's the one calling the shots with foreign policy in the Middle East. So the problem we have here is that the White House is being informed of what Israel is doing, and I guarantee you, Valerie Jarrett is taking that information and telling the mullahs in Iran exactly what's coming. I don't think that Iran and Israel are not aware of what's happening before it happens.
Mhm,
I think there is a significant amount of information being shared between those entities, some of which should not be shared, some of which probably should. So far, it's kept the military hostilities kind of at a low level.
mhm,
Um, there hasn't been,
yeah,
a big escalation. That's good.
mhm.
The back channel communications are working so far. I'm concerned that it's this whole thing is going to escalate at some point.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, I mean, I think and one of the points that you brought up online, and we've talked about this before, is that there are things that could have happened that haven't so far, and I believe and you believe that our prayers do have an impact. As Christians, we pray for different outcomes, even as we get revelation about what could be happening and what is potentially planned or what could happen. And we've seen this. This is biblical. There are stories throughout the Bible of people praying for different outcomes, even when God shows them that one possible outcome. And so we don't want to underestimate the power of prayer. It's very powerful. And one of the things that I've seen in this nation in the past, especially 8 years, is that we as believers have been called into this fight, this spiritual fight at a level that people really haven't understood was necessary up until now. I think that people have given it a lot of lip service. There's been a lot of evangelical rah, rah, rah type of talk, but being in the trenches and paying things lip service are two different uh, situations entirely. What are you seeing happening, especially with your groups, your Telegram groups, and your circle of intercessors?
yeah, well, I guess to your point about interceding in opposition to what God has shown us, that's what That's what I've been doing. It's kind of driving Denise crazy because God keeps showing me these signs that we're going to lose our communications.
Mhm.
Communications going down, internet's going down.
Yeah.
It's all going down, and so I'm preparing for a communication disruption,
Mhm.
power grid disruption. And even though the Lord keeps on showing me these things, I keep praying against it. I'm like, no, we're every night, Denise and I are praying that God's plans for peace are going to be established, that the enemy's plans for war are going to be defeated, that God is going to establish peace, and we just keep praying against the cyber attacks. We keep praying against nuclear war. We're
Sure.
making declarations
Yeah.
that there is not going to be World War III. There's not going to be nuclear war. Even though
Yeah.
I talk a lot about that because those are the issues God is showing me. You know, some people don't understand me, particularly on social media, on Twitter, where people think I'm, pushing doom porn. I'm like, look, I'm, I'm simply talking about the things that God is showing me.
Yeah.
If you think that's doom porn, that's fine.
Yeah.
Trump is literally telling people at every single rally that he goes to, we're on the brink of World War III, that we are this far away from unleashing the most horrific weapons of mass destruction that the world has ever seen. No one accuses Trump of pushing doom porn when he warns us we're on the brink of World War III. That should be a call for everyone to be praying against it. Just
Yeah.
because people like Trump and just because God shows us things that look dark doesn't mean we have to accept them as this is what is going to happen. I'm kind of two minds of this thing. I'm concerned that we are going to end up in a nuclear exchange. On the one hand, on the other hand, I'm praying against it every single day.
Mhm.
I'm
Good.
not welcoming it. I don't want it to happen.
Yeah.
I don't relish the thought of it. I'm not waiting for the rapture. I am serious, and my friends, to answer your question, my friends on social media have really taken that, and they're interceding and praying against, uh, you know, the exacerbation of the war in the Middle East, particularly in nuclear war, World War III. I see a lot of people who are taking it seriously and they're praying against it. And I think we can change the outcomes of the events. If nothing else, we can, I think, minimize the damage, even if evil people are just determined that they're going to have their nuclear war. By praying, we can lessen the damage of that.
Mhm.
And I think we
Th
just need to continue in
Yeah.
prayer on
Yeah.
that issue.
This is such a good point, and I'm gonna bring up seems like Michelle comes up in every show that we do. My friend Michelle. She's
Oh, I
the
thought you meant Michelle Obama.
No,
Never mind.
no, good Michelle. Michelle is a weather warrior, and she has really learned so much about praying. She watches the weather radar. She has certain, streamers that she watches who are keeping track of tornadoes and uh, flooding and all of this activity that's going on around the world, around the country. And one of the things that she prays a lot, she as she's praying, she actually activates in the spirit realm the heavenly hosts who are working, at a very high level to intercede and interfere with these weather patterns, but she will often pray for no loss of life or damage. And because, every single storm can't be stopped. And a couple weeks ago, she was pretty stressed out because there was, if you guys remember, it was right around the time of the eclipse. There were storms breaking out everywhere and it was chaotic, and she was telling me, she goes, "This isn't normal. This is not like if the weather guys are saying this isn't normal," and it was like whack-a-mole. It was storms that were just coming up like boom, 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 everywhere, and she was pretty stressed out, So she was saying, I'm at a new level that, I'm learning things and I'm being challenged in ways that I didn't know was possible, but you know, I don't know how to get at every storm, but what I do know is to pray against loss of life. And it's very interesting because, she tells me that she'll watch her weather guys, and they will say things on their live streams like, "Gosh, that tornado never touched ground. It just hit the tops of the trees. And I was
Right.
sure it was
Mhm.
gonna touch the
Right.
ground." And
Right.
so she can see them in real time having these moments of confusion where they don't understand what was happening and why the tornado didn't do what they predicted it was gonna do. And it's because of those prayers.
Yep.
This is just such a good real life example. So,
I have an interesting testimony that I'd like to share
yeah,
that I
yeah,
think goes along with what you're talking about. So you're talking about how sometimes we will pray that this tornado doesn't happen. And that tornado happens, we get the tornado, and your prayer is, okay, well, then you're not, I see the tornado, you're not allowed to kill anybody. So you
yeah,
restrict the ability of that tornado to cause any damage. Okay, fine, you got your tornado, but nobody got hurt. And so that's kind of a win for us. All right. What is considered a win for us is is kind of a gray area. I just received an email this morning from a woman who said, "You prayed for my husband or a friend who he had liver failure, and he was on a liver transplant list."
mhm.
And she said, "I remember you prayed for him, and you asked the angels of God to give him a new liver from the storehouse of heaven." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I actually remember that prayer."
Mhm.
Uh, so she said, "Guess what happened? He was on the transplant list, and suddenly he got a call from the doctor who said, we have a liver that's perfect for you, perfect match for your body size. Come on in. We're going to do the surgery, and you're going to give you a liver transplant." Guy got a liver transplant. This was like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
He has been doing great ever since then. He's had no problems with rejection. He's had no sickness. Is This woman is like, he's like back to normal, and she's like, he got a new liver. It wasn't the way that we expected it, but he
Yeah.
got a new liver,
Yeah.
and it's working great. And I was like, that's really interesting, because we kind of expect it has to happen supernaturally. It has to
Mhm.
happen our way. Sometimes the circumstances in the natural will just play out the way that works out to our advantage. So
Yeah.
let's going back to nuclear war for just a minute. If we
Yeah.
use that as a hypothetical, and we say, okay, we're praying against nuclear war, we should also be praying that if those missiles get through, if the bombs detonate, that there's going to be no loss of life. That radiation cloud is not going to come and move over my city. It's going to go out to the sea. It's going to dissipate, and it's not going to kill anybody. We, if the people who want to launch a nuclear war are successful, we can still restrict their level of success. We can restrict
Yeah.
casualties. We can restrict fatalities. We can restrict damage. That is an exercise of our kingdom authority. And I
Mhm.
think we need to start thinking in those terms. Like, if we end up in a war, if those people, those 50,000 Chinese men of military age, really are an army, as Trump has suggested, that has come here to subvert and destroy our country, we have to start praying that their mission will be foiled. They will not be allowed to succeed
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
their plans. Those are the things that we need to be interceding about. We can see threats all around us. We need to be targeting those threats with
Mhm.
our prayers and declaring that their plans are going to come to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. And another area that I think is important to pray about, this is something that when you were talking about the money, the foreign aid, the politicians that vote in favor of this, we see Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, doing things that are so disappointing, and that's a mild way to put it, infuriating, and, but one of the things that I've known for a long time, you've known, and Tucker Carlson came out and said it this week on Joe Rogan's podcast, that there are people who are in Congress, in high positions, and I would dare say governors and people at the state levels as well, who are controlled by the intelligence agencies. They're blackmailed, they are threatened. The deep state is another word for it. Chuck Schumer said he threatened Trump early on. When you go against the intelligence community, they have 7 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. There's a quote that of Chuck Schumer saying that it's out there in public, and so I think that what happens with these people is that we send people to Congress and they have good intentions. They want to serve the country in many cases, but they get corrupted by the corruption of the intelligence agencies. And these are wicked, wicked people who are doing
We,
this. People like James Clapper.
yeah, we watched it happen in real time 2 weeks ago. Speaker Johnson was not going to allow a FISA 702 renewal without provision in there to require a warrant to surveil U.S. citizens. That was his stand. He was with Andy Biggs. It
Mhm.
was the Biggs Amendment. He was not going to let this continue. He walks into a skiff with members of the intelligence community. An hour later, he walks out of the skiff and he says, "Well, we're going to pass FISA 702 just the way it is."
Yeah. Yeah, and he
They
said, and I learned
they
a few
did
things.
something in that skiff. They told him, showed him, threatened him. They did something in that skiff to completely change his uh, perspective on FISA.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I don't know what they did, but that is what they do to politicians.
They feared
They
him.
they don't know what they have on him, but they got something on him, and that's just how
Yeah.
it's. Unfortunately, that's how Washington works.
Yeah. Yeah, and so this is where our prayers come in, that uh even when decisions like this are made and the deep state thinks that they're winning, that their plans would fail and that their wicked schemes would turn back on them, right?
Right when Joseph
Yeah.
came out of the pit, out of jail, he proclaimed that the enemy intended it for evil, but
Yeah,
God intended it for good.
exactly.
Even if these evil people are able to pass their amendments, pass their bills, plan their little wars, try to destroy our country, try to put us all into slavery, our prayers can take those plans and turn them
Mhm.
around and make something good come out of them.
Absolutely, that's so good, yeah. And we just, we don't wanna underestimate that, because God is good and he's big, and we've seen him do things throughout history in moments where we don't think there's any hope, and we saw this in 2016 with the election. I mean, it was a mess.
It was
And
worse in January of 2021. I can't tell you how many people that I knew, they were
yeah,
just black-pilled. They were like, "This, I'm over. This is done. We
yeah,
lost. The deep state is in control.
yeah,
Like there's no hope for this country." There was a lot of people really deeply
yeah,
black-pilled after Trump did not get
yeah,
re-inaugurated in
yeah.
20.
I was in
I went
DC.
into a funk. I was just
Yeah,
like, "What in the hell is
yeah.
going on?"
I
Like,
I was in DC that day of the weird bizarro inauguration, and
yeah,
it was, like, bitter cold and cloudy, and there was snow, and the people that I was with, like, we were kinda sorta being chased by the feds, and it was just a weird, awful situation, and so, yeah, I think it happened to a lot of people, but, here we are,
here we
and,
are,
uh
3 years
and
later.
we still have hope because we know that God is bigger than what these people can dream up.
Yep.
Dave, I think this is a good time to take a little break and give our listeners a break. People might need to refresh their beverages or take care of other personal needs. So we're going to play a quick commercial for you. Don't go away, like away, because we're coming back. Don't turn the sound down because this is, you need to hear this stuff so that you can support the channel and support some America First companies. Oh, I almost forgot. One of our sponsors is not on the video yet, but I really want you guys to see our freeze-dried beef. This is griddownchowdown.com. This is a pound of beef. It's freeze-dried. It's not jerky. It's not dehydrated. It is raw ground beef. You just pour water in it and it reconstitutes. You can save it. This is prepper food, but it's also everyday preparation food. You can do either with it. And it's grass-fed. The beef is sourced right in the middle of the country from ranchers and farmers that our friends at Grid Down Chowdown know, and they work with them directly. And they started this during the pandemic when they were trying to buy beef and things were getting rationed. And then they were having power outages and things like that. And so they decided, heck, we're going to freeze dry it. We're going to go directly to the farmers and ranchers. We're going to freeze dry the stuff. And now they have like a nice little commercial operation going. You can get on a subscription. Make sure you tell them Mary Grace sent you. People are loving this because, I mean, you know, you could buy a bunch of like sawdust in a bucket and make oatmeal or something, or you could just buy beef. I don't know about you, but this seems like a good option if things go down and there's an apocalypse. I mean, everybody needs meat. So griddownchowdown.com, and then stick around for the rest because we've got some other affiliate partners that we want you to know about. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Turn up the volume if you're going to leave the room. You don't want to miss this. Okay, see if I can make this work. And I am one of the biggest fans of MyPillow because they have quality America First products that are just made right here in the country and they last. We have the towels, and I have a big issue with towels that shrink up after the first washing. The MyPillow towels stay color fast, they stay in shape, and they stay that way for years after repeated washings. You can't ask for better. Plus, they actually work. When somebody buys from MyPillow using the promo code Mary Grace, that does a couple of things. It brings in a little bit of an affiliate commission to our company, and it helps us to pay the bills, keep the lights on, keep the internet going, travel to places that we do to give you remote content. And it also helps MyPillow by giving them the support of people who genuinely value quality and companies that support real people right here in the United States and employ people all over this country and give back to this country. Go directly to mypillow.com, use promo code Mary Grace, and buy everything you need for the home. There's no need to spend time shopping anywhere else. Go to mypillow.com, use promo code Mary Grace, get your towels, pillows, sheets, robes, dog beds, pet beds, cat beds, whatever it is that you want for the home. Go to mypillow.com, promo code Mary Grace. It's easy. Don't waste your time anywhere else. mypillow.com, promo code Mary Grace. Thank you. Listen, your health is your best investment. We have a country to save, and we need people who are in the best shape of their lives, physically, mentally, spiritually. Why not connect with a team who cares about you on every single level from the inside out? Official Synapse is that team. Officialsynapse.com. It's official, synapse.com. Tell them Mary Grace sent you, and they will treat you like family. If you're like most people, you really probably haven't thought about transferring your paper dollars into physical gold and silver. But I want to tell you a story. My friend Andrew Sorcini over at Beverly Hills Precious Metals, he recently went overseas and he wanted to buy a watch. He likes fine watches. He took 3 currencies with him. He took gold, he took Bitcoin, and he took American dollars. Now, there used to be a time when the American dollar was king. I remember that when I used to travel overseas. Everybody wanted dollars. The people that he was dealing with would not take his dollars because the dollar is so devalued around the world. They wanted the gold. So this is what I recommend to you. I want you to think about this. If you have cash in the bank, if you have an investment account that you have worked hard for years to accumulate, consider the value of converting that money into physical gold and silver. You're not buying something that's losing value. You're changing those worthless dollars into a tangible physical asset that will go up in value, which it has done historically. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to bh-pm.com. The first thing you're going to do is schedule that free consultation. Second thing, just think rationally about this, pray about it, go to the Lord, see what the best decision for you and your family is. I can't tell you that. I don't want to pressure you into that. What I do know is don't be scared, be prepared. And so the third thing you want to do is make a decision for you and your family. Make a decision, take action. bh-pm.com. Let them know Mary Grace sent you. I just want to give a shout out to everybody who watches this show. Thank you for being a participant. Thank you for being a loyal audience member. I just want to remind you, if you like what you've seen, please share this and don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and also sign up for my email list so you never miss a show. Oh, we're back. Hold on. There we go. Ha. Okay. So, hey, listen, guys, speaking of towels and My Pillow, they sent us a goodie box of some really cool things, and they sent us some of the kitchen towels. If you've been debating getting the kitchen towels, don't wait any longer because they're so good. They're big and you get 6 towels and they come in different textures, and the more you wash them, the better they get, and the colors are amazing. They're so beautiful. I think it's like $25 for 6 towels if you use my promo code Mary Grace, and you will be really happy. Anyway, that's just an aside. And the new pillows 2.0, really good. Okay, Dave, what's next?
I guess I'm going to have Denise order some kitchen towels
Yes,
from my.
they're the blues. The blue set is so nice. They're really, really nice. Yeah, okay. What else? What else do we want to talk about? I wrote a note about something earlier, and I just want to make sure I don't miss it. I don't want to miss it. Anybody that's coming in now, if you missed the beginning of the show, we had a lot to talk about. I'm Mary Grace. This is Praying Medic, um, the also known as Dave Hayes. Here's what. Okay, there's a couple things. Just a maybe this isn't the right time, but are we in the end times?
Well,
Just a
interesting question.
light conversation.
What a
We're
fun
back from
subject
the
to talk
break.
about.
We're back. We're back from the
If,
break.
yeah, we're back from the break. We are definitely back. If you would have asked me that question 20 years ago, I would have said, absolutely, we're in the end times, tribulation, it's coming, and we're going to get ruptured, and we're out of here, and the horsemen and the apocalypse, and it's all coming in Gog and Magog, and it's Israel, and yeah, that would have been my answer 20 years ago. In the last 20 years, I've kind of changed my thinking about eschatology, mainly because of what God has been showing me. God has shown me some long-term pictures of the future that are going to take a long time, many lifetimes, for us to manifest the things that God has shown. Years. I've seen some just amazing things happening in society over long periods of time. Let me give you an example.
Yes.
I had a dream not too long ago where I saw 3 timelines for planet Earth. All right, I saw 3 timelines. One timeline, second one, and a third one. And each timeline had a different the timelines had a different outcome for humanity. And so in the first timeline, what I saw was all of the timelines were based on whether we decided to, as a culture, as a society, whether we decided to adopt a communication technology. So in the first timeline, I saw a certain communication technology. And if that technology was adopted by society, we would cease all future progress as a society. We would stop developing basically
Mhm.
as a society if we adopted that communication technology. That was the first timeline. Second timeline, there was another communication technology, and I saw this timeline that if we adopted that technology as a society, we would go backward in our development. We'd essentially go into another dark ages. Human humanity, mankind, civilization would stop evolving, and we would devolve into a more primitive culture. And then the third timeline I saw was an option to adopt a different communication technology. And if we adopted that technology, we would continue to advance as a society. Right? That's a dream that I had a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
So um, the reason I brought this up is it's an example of the kind of dreams that God shows me and other people, where He
Mhm.
shows us long timelines and of future events
Mhm.
take generations for us to manifest.
Yeah.
If you think that we're living in the last days and you think that it's all about Israel being attacked by all these nations and tribulation coming, we're going to get raptured or we're not going to get raptured, we're all going to go through the tribulation and then it's all over and Jesus comes back and, you know, then the end is there and we
Mhm.
have, the Battle of Armageddon. If you believe in that telling of the future, then all of these prophetic uh, revelations that the rest of us have received about generations to come, they're not happening. And
Yeah.
God has not shown me personally through my own revelation. He's not shown me anything that really looks like we're coming down to the last days. The rapture is coming, the tribulation is coming. He has shown me some very concerning things, like I've
Mhm.
been talking about for the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
I think that there's a very good likelihood we're going to survive a nuclear war. I also think the vast majority of the people who are listening to this broadcast are going to be alive after that nuclear war. I think we're going to survive World War III. Most of us are going to survive it. We're going to live in a different culture. I think that this is just me spitballing. I think nuclear war is the last card that the elites will ever get to play against us. Ever since the creation of the atomic bomb, the elites have held over society the fear of nuclear war. They have
Mhm.
trained us to think that nuclear war is the end of civilization. It's the end. It's over. Your
Nuclear
stuff is
winter.
gone. You're gone.
Yeah.
Everything's gone.
Everything's fried.
Or whoever the few people who live are living back in the Stone Age. Um,
Mhm.
they have used that fear of nuclear war as a stick, right? So it's the carrot and the stick. They
Mhm.
try to incentivize us with little, the carrot, your cost of living adjustment, the shiny new car, the cute little girlfriend, the whatever things that people want. The
Mhm.
elites know how to incentivize us streaming video, streaming movies, the iPhone, the virtual realities, the headsets. They've been brainwashing society and trying to get them to fall into a certain uh, to adopt a view of ourselves, a view of society, and a view of culture that allows them to perpetuate their control over us. They want control over us.
Mhm.
And so the carrot is all the little glitzy little things they give us that are we think are just so cool. The stick is nuclear war. If we do not comply with their demands and
Mhm.
conform to their um, to their expectations,
Right.
they're going to hit us with the stick. So when you refuse to wear a mask, when you refuse to take the vax, you lost your job, you lost your family,
Mhm.
right? That's the stick. It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
about control. They want to control the way you think and they want to control your behavior.
Mhm.
Nuclear war is the ultimate stick. They have this little thing that they can hold over us and say, if you little plebes don't behave, we're going to press the button and we're going to nuke the planet and you're all going to be toast.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah.
so I think the elites have been using this as a threat to manipulate us and to coerce us into
Mhm.
adopting certain behaviors. I suspect that at some point in the not too distant future, whether it's Russia or China or Iran or Washington D.C., I don't know who's going to do it. I think we're going to end up. Someone's going to hit the nuke button, and we're going to end up in a nuclear exchange with some country. And I think that there's going to be a limited nuclear exchange. People are going to be like, "WTF just happened? Like, are you kidding me?"
Mhm.
It's going to upset the apple cart massively. And I think long
Yeah.
term, when we come
Yeah.
out of this on the other side, we're going to look back and go, you know what? They have been telling us for 75 years that nuclear
Yeah.
war is the end. And most of us are still here.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, we didn't have such good crops this last year, but eventually the radiation will
Mhm.
dis and we're going to rebuild our
Mhm.
society. And we're not going to have that fear of nuclear war anymore. That is really, I think, a card that can only play one time.
Right.
And when they
Right.
play when they play that card, and we find out that nuclear war is not the end of planet Earth, it takes away the stick that they've been using to coerce us for the last 75 years. It's no longer a tool that they can use to scare us. They can say, well, you know what? You want to set another nuclear war? We just survived one. We're going to survive the next one too. You
Mhm.
can't use that against us as leverage anymore. It loses its power as a coercive tactic by the elites. And I think that, I haven't been able to talk about this subject this in depth. And like I said, a lot of people on social media, they misunderstand me. When I talk about nuclear war, I'm not talking about nuclear war as if it is the end of planet Earth. I don't think it is. I think I think it's coming. I think we need to prepare for it. And those who are prepared for it are going to survive it and they're going to thrive on the other side without the coercion of the elites trying to force us into adopt all these crazy behaviors. I absolutely think that the majority of the planet is going to survive uh, the war that's coming, World War III. Yes, it's going to
Interesting.
be. If World War III happens, it's going to be horrific. I'm not downplaying the seriousness and the death of potentially a billion or 2 or 3 billion people. That is a horrific event that is difficult for most people to conceptualize. However, I think at this point in the game, we need to start thinking about it. We need to start planning and preparing because if it happens and there is no rapture and the Lord does not return and does not take us all into heaven, and we have to continue living and building a society on the other side of this thing,
Mhm.
some of us need to start thinking about what that's going to look like.
Mhm.
So no, I don't
Interesting.
think we're in the end times. I am somewhat concerned that we may end up uh, in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a Mad Max scenario either. I think that if we do end up in a nuclear exchange, yeah, gas prices are going to be high as hell. Yes, there's going to be looting and robbing. Yes, there's going to be civil unrest until people come together and rebuild society, put in institutions of a different form of government, not the one that we
Mhm.
have right now. Um, I think that it's going to be very, very different. And
Mhm.
I've been spending a lot of time thinking about we could do differently on the other side of this thing
Yeah.
to alleviate the problems we have right now.
It feels to me thank you for explaining that. It's a topic that comes up a lot on media, in a lot of the comments that I get. It's the consensus seems to be that we are in the end times, and if you look at certain scriptures, it does appear that way. One of the things, though, that I have noticed and pointed out is that a lot of the scriptures that appear to point to this current era being the end times can also describe what was happening in the first century church. They can
Exactly.
describe what was happening in the Middle Ages, describe what was happening in the 60s, what was happening there has been depravity and evil and wickedness from the beginning of recorded history. And I believe that every era that witnesses these things has had individuals who in some measure have been saying that this is the end times. I mean, look at Y2K. And so that's just an interesting observation. Now, when you talk about World War III, it feels like the last 4 years has been a precursor to World War III. It just because of what they were trying to do. I believe that they had an intention to kill off a lot more people, and that maybe that was their nuclear bomb that didn't actually go the way they had planned it. And so like you're saying, this is the last stick that they have. And one of the things that I think is very interesting, I want to go back a little bit to when Trump was doing the things that he did at the beginning of this whole operation. And one of the things that he did in March of 2020 is that he deployed field hospitals all over the country, which I thought was unusual, and I pointed it out at the time, even in areas where there was not high, infection rates and wasn't even expected to be. Not just cities. We know that he did that in New York City. We know that he had the hospital ships and things like that. But I'm talking about full on deployment of field hospitals. I don't know that people are aware that he did that. I did bring it up, and you and I probably talked about it as well. And my contention has been that he always knew that there was something else, that there was a bigger threat that uh, that he was aware of, that he had and still has intel about something much bigger that was very likely to go down. And for example, people who criticize him over, shutting down the country, I don't think that it was specifically to stop the spread of the germs. I think that it was actually to keep people in their homes and keep them safe. That's just my take on it. Um, because of what he knew. We and all of the armchair quarterbacks, the Monday morning quarterbacks who want to criticize him and say he never should have done that. I just think that I would reserve judgment based on the fact that he has and has had access to intel that you will never know, maybe. Just
He
something to
finally
think
came out.
about.
He finally came out and confirmed our theory about what was going on with the vaccine. I don't know if you saw that interview, but
By the way, I need to give a disclaimer before we go on because I'm not going to cut off YouTube
ooh,
right now.
I said the V word.
Yeah, so we are I just wanna make it clear that we are talking about, historical facts of
Yes,
incidents that have taken place up until
yes.
now throughout the history of what happened starting in 2020 with the coronavirus outbreak. We are talking historically
Mhm.
about things that President Trump and his team and other scientists did.
Yeah.
So I wanna make that very clear.
This is not a debate about the efficacy of of the jab or anything like
Any
that.
medical treatments. We're not
This is a
talking about and we're
right.
not disputing the WHO's stance on this. Just wanna make that
So
clear. Okay.
yeah. So what Trump said and what I said when people ask me what was Trump's plan, why did he do this? My response has been, look, Trump knew that for uh, for the therapies to go through phase one, phase two, phase three clinical trials, the normal way that they go through a clinical trial was going to take years. And my perspective was they planned to lock the country down for years, potentially 10 to 12, maybe 15 years at the outside, destroy people's jobs, destroy the economy, lock people into their homes, and create and sequester everyone, and build their 15-minute cities, maybe even 5-minute cities, where you would be quarantined and you would not be allowed to go more than a couple hundred feet from your house. You do everything remotely. That has been my hypothesis from the beginning. He knew their plan was to stretch this out over a decade or more.
Yeah.
And his plan for Operation Warp Speed was, screw that, that's not happening. He told the manufacturers, you have
Mhm.
those medications out by the end of this
Yeah.
year, or you do not have them out, period. You have 11 months, get it done by November. Actually, this
Mhm.
was in March or April, and they had to get it done by November. So they only
Yeah,
had like 7
9
or 8
months.
months.
Yeah.
He forced them to ramp up the
Yep.
timeline from 10 or 12 years to 7 or 8 months, because he did not want the country to be locked down, have everything
Mhm.
destroyed. Trump actually came out and confirmed that's exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
This is
When
an
did he
interview.
do that? I might have missed that. Was it in one of his
This was in an
rallies?
interview about 3 weeks ago, and I forget who
Okay.
was interviewing him. It was one of the talk show guys, that Hugh Hewitt or someone like that.
Okay.
And he was on that. And he basically came out and said that. He's like, look, they were going to run this thing out to 10 or 12, 15 years. And I wasn't going to let that
Yeah. I
happen.
think I remember.
That's why I had to get this stuff out there as quickly as possible, because
Mhm.
they
I
were going to
remember that
destroy
now.
our country. And he actually said that. And I was like, okay, cool. So,
Yeah.
um, where were we going with this when I got off on this tangent? You asked about
We were talking about nuclear war, and I was saying that I just believed that there was a threat, there was a bigger threat
and
in
Trump had an
2020.
idea that there was a bigger threat than that he could not talk about publicly.
Exactly, and he called himself, he said, "I'm a war," you might say that I'm a
A
wartime
wartime
president,
president.
and
Yeah,
I like I said, I don't think that putting field hospitals up is a that's not a typical pandemic response, especially
no.
when you're trying to and again, agreeing to quarantine healthy people. That's not a typical response. I believe that he wanted people indoors and safe from whatever it is that they were threatening to do, which may have had nothing to do with, um, germs. I just that again, I don't know, I don't have intel on this, I'm not claiming to have intel, but my spidey senses have been telling me this from the time I saw those field hospitals go up, and they're often right, I'm just saying.
So
I
let me
have
ask you a couple of questions.
yeah,
Trump said he's a wartime president.
yeah,
From his perspective, who were we at war with?
the deep state,
China?
um, China, yeah,
China.
but who are they
China,
in cahoots
the
with?
China virus. Now, he has
China,
said that
China,
China owes the world something to the tune of $10 trillion in damages
yeah,
thanks to the China virus. He has called it a bioweapon. He essentially accused China of releasing a bioweapon on our country. What if those field hospitals were set up as a part of a contingency plan in the event that we actually got in a shooting war with China?
yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities, right? And again, I don't think that you set up giant tents, to isolate people who have been in contact with supposedly the deadliest pathogen ever to hit the earth, right? That's stopped
Yeah,
by a cloth.
and everyone laughed at Trump because they thought he was it was a little overkill
Yeah,
for the number of people, because there weren't that many patients who actually
yeah.
used any of these facilities. But you're right. It's obvious that Trump had another strategic objective in mind that he could not talk about publicly.
That's what I think, and I will I will take that with me to the end. That's my contention. And maybe one day I'll get to have a conversation and ask him about that. That would be one of my questions. What was going on behind the scenes that is it ever going to be declassified? I don't know. Um, Speaking of declassified, do you want to talk about aliens for a minute?
Sure. I
Okay.
love talking about aliens.
So Tuck
Although most of my Christian friends hate it, but we'll talk
Tucker
about it anyway.
I don't like it either. I hate science fiction, but Tucker was on Joe Rogan, and the first thing out of the gate was unidentified objects under the sea, in the air, things that have actually been witnessed by members of our military have been harmed by it, and Tucker is contending, and he believes that he has proof that these are not he said there's no proof that any of these beings a, came from other planets. His contention is that it is spiritual, that they are spiritual in nature, and, that it's right in line with the Bible, with Ezekiel, with the appearance of wheels in the heavens, and things that are heavenly,
Hmm,
supernatural.
right.
And I just think that's very interesting, but he also said that he had to take a step back from it because it's very dark, and a lot of people have been hurt by this, and it's documented. So, I do encourage people to go and listen. This is the first part of the Joe Rogan interview, and, our friend MJ Truth on Truth Social and on Twitter, MJ Truth Ultra, has been cutting clips like he normally does and kind of highlighting some of these comments, but it's I my feeling about aliens, things that people think are aliens, are that they're actually demons, and you've written in your fiction to some extent, and also in some of your nonfiction about this. So I wanted to get your opinion.
Yeah. It's an interesting subject. Uh, a subject I really had no grid for, I would say, prior to Q, but um, I started following Q, and the Anons started asking Q, so, hey there, 17th letter of the alphabet. What about Roswell? Are we alone? And Q is like, no, we're not alone. Come on, man. There's aliens out there.
Right.
Some of the questions to Q in the question and answer session, someone asked about secret space programs, and Q basically said, yeah, there are um, government programs that are off the books, off the record, that are classified at the highest level. So my I had no grid for any of this stuff before Q started dropping intel about it. I have a friend who went to be with the Lord recently. He was a missionary, and I've known this guy for many years. And he, after Q started dropping intel, he told me that he worked with the CIA. I was like, "You what?" He's like, "Yeah, I was I was with the CIA in the 80s and 90s," and I was like, "You what?" I was just like, because I knew this guy from Facebook. In my discussions about healing and deliverance and all the things, all the
Mhm.
supernatural stuff for the last, since 2010, this guy was very active in all those discussions. And I just thought, oh, he's just a missionary and he's interested in supernatural. And when Q started dropping all this info, this guy starts sending me messages on Telegram, self-destructing messages. As soon as I'd read the message, it was gone. He was very, very concerned. Didn't want any of the agencies knowing that he was messaging me. And so he's messaging me all these links and imploring me to go check out this information. He says, look, he goes, I can tell you from personal experience, anything you've ever seen in a Star Trek episode, we have the ability to do it. We've had it for a long time. We have intergalactic travel, we have transporters, we have everything. because this shit has been going on for a long time. And he goes, I'm not BSing you. Check this stuff out. And my mind was on tilt. I was like, what? What are you talking about? So it took me about 6 months.
Interesting.
It took me about 6 months. And by the way, for those of you who are out there just curious, the CIA actually has a long history of recruiting missionaries as assets, because when a missionary goes to a country, to another country, they're granted access to people and places and things in a country that other people don't have access to. And so the CIA has long used missionaries as assets. Anyway, uh,
Interesting.
it took me about 6 months of going through the links that he sent me and kind of very slowly assimilating this information and trying to figure out how much of it is real, how much of it is BS, how much of it is plausible. Is this real? Like, what what? Because I was my brain was on tilt. I did not have a grid for this stuff. But he very gently encouraged me um, to consider some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I saw the interview with Bill Wood on Project Camelot, and mind blown when I listened to the interview with Bill Wood on Project Camelot, where he talked about Project Looking Glass. Now, I'm not suggesting that everything Bill Wood said in that 2.5 hour interview is true. I
Hmm.
don't know if any of it is true, but that interview got me thinking in a completely different direction. And what happened, that was result of a Q drop. Q mentioned Project Looking Glass, and I was posting about that drop, and I was like, okay, well, there's something called Project Looking Glass. I don't know what that is, but sometimes you have to go forward to see the past or something. I posted it, and people were like, the anons are jumping all over me, like, what do you mean? Don't you know about Project Looking Glass? You got to check it out. Jordan Sather was just scorching me, like, come on, Maddock, you're better than that. You got to look into Project Looking Glass. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I don't know what Project Looking Glass is. So I had to start doing some research. Went down the rabbit trail looking into Project Looking Glass. And when I came across that interview with Bill Wood, that night that I watched that interview, God gave me a dream. And the dream was about aliens on another planet. And he actually gave me this story for the science fiction novel that I'm working on right now. He gave me the entire storyline in a dream. And it has to do with Project Looking Glass, actually. So all of that
Interesting.
is to say that I used to be of the opinion that if there were aliens, they were demons, because I had never met a demon and I'd never met an alien. And because all the pastors that I know, they always equate aliens with demons. I'm like, okay, that's fine with me. Since then, I've met quite a lot of demons. I have not met a demon that I would mistake for an alien. I haven't yet met an alien, however. And so the demons that I have met, they don't look very much like the aliens that people typically talk about.
Mhm, mhm. Well, and one of the things that I think, Tucker is talking about is not necessarily entities. Or being like, you know, creatures. I think he's talking about a lot of encounters that our military has had, um, with objects, like, objects that can travel at very, very high speeds underwater, or orbs, or craft, like spacecraft that our military are seeing, that obviously aren't, they're not Russian, they're not American, they're otherworldly, and that there are people who are under gag orders not to talk about these. Some of the things have actually been released from classification. I'm not an expert on this at all, but I think there is something to the idea that whatever creatures we call aliens could actually be in the demonic realm, because we know that. And the other point that Tucker makes is up until really this last century, these types of encounters have been attributed to the spiritual realm. It's only in, I guess, postmodern thought that the concept of science fiction or uh, otherworldly, non-spiritual element came into play.
Yeah, I think you can't rule out the spiritual component. So if you think about some of the scenes from the Old Testament in particular, where angels manifest in human form, you're sitting there minding your own business when, sitting underneath a tree, suddenly this glowing being of light comes up and stands in front of you, and then manifests as a normal looking human being, talks to you, and then is gone. Like, what do you call that? Is that a demon? Is it an angel? Is it an alien from outer space? What do you call that? If you have no
Mhm.
ability to interrogate and conduct an experiment and objectively learn
Right.
what that thing is, you could call it anything. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably where
Yeah.
Tucker is at. Tucker is probably at the stage where he's exploring these phenomena, doesn't really have a grid for them other than, oh, well, some of this stuff is kind of talked about in the Bible. So maybe this is spiritual stuff. And that's fine. That's fine.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying that there aren't demonic entities that would not necessarily be attributed or look like what people would consider to be an alien. There probably are. Um,
Yeah.
our our
Yeah.
our concept in our mind of what an alien might look like from another planet is not that different necessarily from what a demon might look like if it manifested and we
Mhm.
had a
Mhm.
conversation with it. It's
Interesting.
easy to understand why someone would equate those two, but I would say there we should leave open the door of possibility that some of those beings might be extraterrestrial. And
Mm.
even if you assume that they are demonic or angelic, that still makes
Mhm.
them extraterrestrial. Their home is not here on Earth
Okay.
necessarily. Um, their home is the spiritual world, and they occasionally would
Mhm.
intersect with the natural world when we see them and they
Mhm.
manifest.
Mhm. And we
So
do know that, Satan can shapeshift, and there's a lot of deception. He's the father of lies, and I think that people can see things that maybe are not as they actually appear, right? So there's that element of it. Scott Scott is weighing in from Scotland. He goes, "This subject is deep, lass."
yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. I
I'll
know,
write a
I
book
know,
about it one day.
I know. I it is deep. It's not something I think about that much, but it caught my attention when it came up on that podcast, and I just thought it was very interesting.
I'm,
Um,
I'm going to try to set aside 3 hours and listen to that podcast this
yeah,
weekend.
yeah, you gotta do it while you're multitasking. Okay, I'm gonna lighten the mood here a minute. So, I got some hate mail, and, I know you get hate mail, so you
I never
you
get
can
hate
laugh.
mail.
Well, normally it's electronic, but I got something in the mail at my PO box, and it was addressed to Mary Grace Media, and I thought, "Oh, good, mail." And then I
And then
opened
you
it
opened it.
I opened it, and it's really funny. I'm not gonna name the person because I don't really wanna give them that much attention, but I'm bringing attention to it because to me, it's actually a bit. I mean, I have some level of admiration for the person because they took the time to write out a quote. They typed out a quote of something that I said, about President Trump, put it in quotes. So clearly they listened to the show, so they have time on their hands, and then they put it in quotes, and then they typed out some screed about me, and you might have been mentioned too, who knows? But because people love to hate you. And then they put a graphic on there and they printed it in color. They wasted color ink on my hate mail. And then they went to the post office. Raise your hand if you just love going to the post office. Is that something that's always high on your to-do list of things that you're just itching to do? I love going like, no, you're like, "Ugh, I gotta go to the post office." So this person literally, like, put a stamp on it, probably went to the post office, maybe put it in their mailbox, but went to the trouble of putting this thing in an envelope, spending color ink, doing a graphic thing, and then putting it in the mail, and I'm just like, "Okay, that's next level commitment to hating." And anyway, I just like, am I the only one? Like, really? How this person needs a different hobby. Maybe we can pray for this person because I just wanted to give a shout out to that level of commitment for hate mail
Well,
because usually
yeah.
people just resort to email because they can't be bothered actually to, do the graphics and the printout and the stamp and the address. I mean, that's next level. Got to give you credit for that. So, anyway, but all the rest of you who send me wonderful, nice things, we do have a PO box, and if you wanna send snail mail, you can do that, and, it's on my website, so you're definitely welcome to do that. I like it, and I write back when people do that. So, just, yeah, just thought it was really funny, like, gosh, what a waste of paper and color ink and stamp. I mean, I don't know about you, I think it's a big commitment to print something in color if you have a home printer. That's just me.
Yep. That is
'Cause
a
you're always
commitment.
yeah, because 'cause you're always running out, and then the thing tells you you're out of one color, and so you can't print anything, you gotta buy all new ink. So, I just think it's a huge level of commitment.
It's good.
Anyway.
I knew it. Hey, live your life in such a way that you are able to live rent free in your enemies' heads. Like that is like my tagline in life. It's like if I'm living rent free in the heads of my enemies, I am so happy because that's pretty much what Jesus did. I mean, if you think about how much the religious leaders hated him and plotted against him, how we're going to trap him, how we're going to get him, we hate that guy. Jesus just lived rent free in their heads. And
Yeah.
if you are living rent free in the heads of moronic, foolish, deceived people, you are you're on target.
Right, that's what I figure. I'm like, somebody's going to all that trouble to tell me what a horrible person I am. Okay, we must be doing something right. Um,
Alrighty.
but here we go. So I think, is there anything else that we want to cover? I want to make sure people know about your books, so I'm going to flash those up here. But you've got your book on emergency preparedness. This is a book that people want to get in the printed version, and they can order it wherever books are sold, but also from your website. And if they want to do it by snail mail and write a check, they can go to your website and use the address there, and
Yep,
they get it signed, right? If they do that.
that's correct. You'll get if you send me a check. First, you have to email me, and we need to converse so I can
Okay.
explain to you how it works. And I had a guy ask um, yesterday when, when I said you're going to have to send me a check. He goes, "You must be old." And I said, "Well, I am a baby boomer, but it's not because I'm old. I I take payment by check because PayPal, Patreon, uh, Payoneer, Venmo, they canceled us. We've been canceled off of every financial platform. We can't take electronic payments. So, like, no, it's not because I'm technologically stupid. It's because
Because they hate him. Yeah.
so yeah, if you want an autographed book, just hit me up with an email, and I'll send you an autographed book with free shipping. It's going to cost you $20, same price it'd be on the website, but no extra premium for the book to have it signed. If you're interested in that,
There you
right?
go. He's got tons of books, so I'm just kinda skipping back
We
and
do.
forth.
We've
Emotional
got more in the
healing,
works.
oh,
I'm working on the fourth Q book.
prolific. Oh, by the way, you mentioned Q. And okay, so here's Power and Authority Made Simple. You've got Emotional Healing Made Simple. And then we have Emergency Preparedness Made Simple. That's not Made Simple, but I just wanted to put that in there because everything else is. So, but that book, but Q, here's the interesting thing about Q. Dave, some of you guys may be thinking, oh, he's talking about that Q stuff. Well, the Q stuff is actually really interesting and worth learning about. So much so that the last episode that we did here, Conspiracy of Truth on Mary Grace TV, we talked exclusively about Q and Anon and QAnon and all of that. And it was incredibly well received. We got great feedback about it. And so if you want to watch that, you can go back on any of my channels. It's probably easier to go on Rumble. Yeah, because it got taken down off of YouTube. So it's not there. But
Shocker.
yeah, because you said a bad word. And but it is on Rumble and it's episode 12, Conspiracy of Truth, episode 12. That's where we talked about all things Q. And so that is definitely worth, I think, 90 minutes of your time to go and listen to that. It was fantastic. So just go back and in case you do that. Scott says that Q may well be AI. Nah, doubt it. But you can go listen, Scott. Go listen to the episode and see what you come up
That's
with.
that's a common observation that people have made. However, the people who have read all the drops, the researchers and anons on the board, I haven't heard one of them ever suggest that Q is AI. That is a comment that is usually made by people who haven't read the posts. So
Yeah, and also the fact somebody says, you know, that you believe somebody is commenting and saying, "So, do you believe Q is real?" That is a irrelevant
hey,
question.
Mary, is the sky real?
That's like saying, "Is the sky blue?" Like Q, whether you agree with some of the things that happened with the Q drops, that's really the more relevant question. Do you think that it had an impact? What kind of like if you're going to talk about Q, the question is not is it real?
Right.
Because you can go and see for yourself all of the posts that Q made. So that's a moot point. Um there but again, go back and watch. We're not going to rehash everything on this show, but it was definitely worth listening to. So so who said that? Patricia. So if you have that question, I do encourage you to go and just rewatch it. It's on the Facebook, it's on the Rumble, and again, like I said, somebody got big mad on YouTube and took it down because it was we went apparently Dave said a forbidden word, you know? So,
I think I said the V word.
we got a strike. Yeah, got a strike, yeah. So, but that's yeah, I think my YouTube channel may become the channel of lifestyle, like gardening with my dad, what did the cats bring home, today, uh, all of now we're hiking, that kind of here's my
Hey,
latest fashion, here's my latest thrift store find, things like that. That's
I
probably
think we,
what I
I
do
think
on
we should all give YouTube the content they deserve.
um well, that's not gonna say that my lifestyle channel is gonna be bad.
If
It's just
YouTube wants to have boring, mundane conversations or there's never anything controversial, then let's give them that.
listen, there is a lot of controversy to be had in fashion. Do not discount
Okay.
if I go thrifting and I find something really good, guys, you need to know that a lot of what I wear is thrifted. You guys like my clothes. All right, Dave, just hold on because you're wearing kind of a olive drab shirt. But for those of us who like fashion, I just want to veer off here for a minute and talk about all the amazing things that I find thrifted, and not just clothing, but secondhand things that I find. It's really a legitimate thing, and you don't have to spend retail on really cool clothing. And so I don't think that's a mundane topic because I get all kinds of compliments and comments on my clothes. I think I might just do that. I might just transition my YouTube over to lifestyle with Mary Grace. I mean, just the garden, just the stuff in I mean, it's actually sheer entertainment being out in the garden with my dad and the cats. And now my nephew's living here. So on any given day, you just don't know what's going to happen out there. That alone, I could have just a whole series on that, you know?
Just for the record, no one has ever accused me of being a fashionista. So,
I know, I know. We do need to talk about your hair though.
okay. What
Oh
hair?
gosh, I know. It's just Oh, somebody now see people are already asking me for gardening tips on YouTube. I am not the expert, but I will tell you that my dad has a green thumb like you've never seen. Last year, he put in 18 cucumber seeds. Don't ask me why that many, but usually when you plant seeds, things some come up, some don't. We had 18 cucumber plants. Not a single dud in the pack. Everything
Wow.
he plants is like that, just you know, everything he plants, boom, 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 it all comes up. Yeah, and he doesn't follow any of the rules. He's not doing, like, permaculture, regenerative farming, like, any of that. He's just like, "Oh, we got seeds, let's put them in the ground." So, there's no we don't have, like, the Instagram mapped out, this section here, and this is like nothing is symmetrical. It's not happening that way. He's 86. He's gonna do it the way he wants, and I can fight him on it, or I can just say, "Okay, well, I'm gonna put these flowers over here, and you put your cucumbers over here, and maybe we'll have some semblance of something that looks like an English cottage garden one day, maybe."
Or not.
Yeah, so
Uh,
my dream garden and the garden that I envision on paper is not what we have out there. But you know what? It gets us outside and we have father-daughter time. So, yeah. That's my little tangent about how I think my YouTube channel might play out. Just saying. And Michelle
okay.
says early Q, she's commenting on Q. She says early Q rocked. I learned a lot. We people collectively learned a lot about research from Q. It really pushed our envelopes and challenged us, you know? I think. I think people there's we're gonna look back on this time in history and we're gonna realize that the people who hated on us, the people who hated on President Trump, the people who hated on Melania, the people who hated on everything, they're they're gonna maybe wake up one day and go, "How did I missed it. I missed, like, the most amazing era in modern history because I was so busy hating." Maybe God will redeem it for them, but I feel bad for people that are just hating that much.
Yeah, I agree. Can I respond to the early Q rocked? I learned a
Yeah,
lot thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, no disrespect intended to the person who made that comment,
That was Michelle.
Michelle. But if you look at the Q posts from the beginning, right, October 28th, 2017, through, I would say, the end of December, 2 months worth of posts, November and December, Q was training the Anons on the board trying to get them to do the research, to look into news articles, current events, connect the people, connect the events, connecting the dots. This is how Q is teaching people how to look at the timestamps. He had to basically give the Nons very, very rudimentary lessons on how to look at timestamps and how if you're going to look at timestamps, they have to be in the same time zone, and look at Trump's tweets timestamps and look at my timestamps and compare them, right? Q was teaching the board, Anons, how to do the research in the first 2 months. If you say the early Q rocked, I learned a lot, it's because Q was basically doing a freshman level class in open source intelligence. And as time went on, the drops got more difficult to decode, more challenging, and some people were not up to the challenge. The later Q posts, more recent ones, are much more difficult to decode correctly, I think. It's just a lot more challenging. And so, like I said, no offense, but the earlier drops were much easier to decode than the later ones. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course there became questions, especially in after 2020, or when was the last drop? When was the last one?
November 27th, 2022, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
That's actually
So
the last. That was actually the last day that I had a dream about Q. Was the very last Q post.
interesting. So
Yeah,
almost 4
year and a
years
half.
to the day
Yeah,
after
what
the
is it?
first Q post.
Uh, so yeah, 20. Yeah,
Because it
that's
was
about right.
October 27th,
Was the first
2018.
post, and
Yeah.
November 27th was the last post.
Yeah.
Or
Interesting.
I think it's
Hmm.
27th. Might have been 24th, but
Interesting. Interesting. And then
yeah.
that's when we met. 2018. No, 2017. It was 2017. 5 years. Sorry. He posted in 2017.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, and then
Yeah.
we met out in California. No, out in where was it?
We were in California.
California.
It was in
That's
California.
right. California.
Holy moly.
That was
That was bizarre. Holy
but,
moly.
it was the start of such a good friendship with you and Denise,
It
and
was the start of many
a
good
lot of
friendships.
and it
Met
was the
some
start of
very cool people there.
some real crazy things too,
Uh,
when those of you who've been following me and Dave for a while, like, we've been through some things.
yeah.
When you talk about, like, trial by fire and learning, it's a miracle that we're still here. I will say that, and I think that there is a sort of a special feeling that happens when you interact with what I would call OG anons and broadcasters, because there's a lot of people that have come. Thank you, Christy, for your help. She said she has to go. Thank you, Christy. Bless you.
Thanks,
Um,
Christy.
so there's a lot of there's a lot of people that have come up, kind of Johnny come latelys on the scene of posting and being influencers and things like that in this space. And not that they're not doing good work, some of them, but there's just it's like a little special camaraderie that we have, those of us who have been through, like, so many accounts and so many bannings and cancellations and hate mail and people in our own circle
Betrayal.
turning on us, and yeah, just, like, it's been crazy, and we're still here, still here. Chris
Can I
Yeah.
leave the audience with a comment?
Yes, please do.
If you have not seen the Flynn movie, go see the Flynn movie. Denise ordered it on DVD. We got it a couple nights ago and we watched it.
Wait, hold on, I got a link.
Uh,
Here's the
I'm
DVD,
very
right here. DVD.
impressed with everything about that movie. The production quality is great. The music is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person who I will take a film and pick it apart. Uh, Screenwriting, the music, the score, the cinematography. Um, I'll just pick apart a movie from a technical perspective. For a documentary, this film was really well done as a documentary. Uh, they interviewed the right people. I was kind of stunned when I saw Adam Lovinger in the movie. Um, very few people know who Adam Lovinger is, but for those of us who were Spygate thread makers on Twitter back in the day during Spygate, Lovinger was a key person who was in the Office of Net Assessment that the deep state targeted, and he has a prominent role to play in the film. And he's the guy who kind of figured out what Stefan Halper was doing. The deep state targeted Adam Lovinger. They took away his security clearance. That's how they got back at him. And so the interviews with Flynn and all the other people, Tucker and everyone else, it's in the film. are very enlightening if you don't know what happened early in Trump's administration. I love the part where Flynn is talking about how Reince Priebus and Pence and Trump and the inner circle were in the Oval Office the day that Flynn um, turned in his resignation. That was a very, very impactful moment. And I learned a lot about how politics works just listening to Flynn describe how
Mhm.
they organized and coordinated and orchestrated all of these events to get rid of him and to sabotage Trump. And one of the things that impressed me most in this film is how Flynn went through so much harassment and persecution, and he endured it with the help of his friends, and it made him a stronger person on the other side of it. That's been my story. I rarely do I ever talk about the years ago, 20 years ago, when I was going through heavy duty harassment, persecution, and trials um, over the span of about 6 years, where people were trying to destroy my life. I went through something similar to what Flynn went through,
Mhm.
and what the people who know me today, who pick on me and tease me and taunt me and troll me on social media, don't know is I went through hell 20 years ago over a long period of time with a number of people who wanted to destroy my career. And it brought me to God, but it also developed a lot of character that I never would have developed had I not gone through all that harassment and persecution. Flynn went through his time of his trial in the fire, and he's come out of it a much stronger man, much more confident, and he is going to be a force to be reckoned with when he and Trump get back in the White House. Um,
Yeah.
if Trump wins the election, regardless of whatever position Flynn takes, there is going to be a day of reckoning, and it's largely because Flynn went through what he went through, learned what he learned, and has come out of it a better man. And now he knows a lot more and is a lot more equipped and trained to do the work that God needs him to do. So I'm just going to land it there.
That's fantastic, and I've been flashing up the links here while we're talking. There's a link here for the DVD, you can order it, and then also the movie is being shown, around the country in different locations. There is an option where you can do a meet and greet, General Flynn is there. He's showing up at every location. They're out on the West Coast right now, so if you go to flynnmovie.com, you can search the locations and get the tickets if you are in a place where you can see the live premieres. They're not showing in regular theaters. They're at churches and private venues and things like that. I think it's like 40 some different locations around the country. And so he's going to be doing this, I think, through July or maybe August. It's just nonstop. And so pray for him, pray for his safety, for his team. That's a rigorous schedule, really intense. And so but it is, kinda cool to go to a venue where you can actually see it and meet him. I know, one of my listeners, I think, is seeing it out in California. But, yeah, so if you don't wanna do that, get the DVD. You can also stream it. You can buy the licensing to stream it to your group. And anytime you do that, if you're not sure how to do it, just contact me, info@marygracemedia.com. We do have an affiliate connection with our channel here. So General Flynn is using the influencers and podcasters to get the word out. And so, it's a partnership. And when you go, make sure you use the referral code Mary Grace, if you buy it or if you buy tickets, and they'll let us know that you did that. So it's exciting, and thank you for the review of that. It's very makes it even all the more meaningful. And by the way, guys, I had General Flynn on the show here a few weeks ago. It was the exact same day that the bridge in Baltimore got hit and collapsed. So that was a very on fire show. And, he was on for about a half an hour, and he was in rare form, and
He,
so
he, dro- he
you
dropped a few nuggets of very important information
he
on that
did, and
show.
and and he had just gotten, like, a fresh haircut, and he was battle ready, just straight from the barber, general he's a general, so he's, like, high and tight, and, just raring to go. And, so that was a good show. That was one of my better shows, I think, ever that I had done with anybody. It was really high energy. So go back and watch that. But I think that's it. We've been on for quite a long time, and, at some point, there are people in this house who need to be fed. Here's a comment. It says, "Mary Grace, I have learned more from you and Dave's shows than anywhere else. Seriously, so much good information explained as well. Mary Grace, you ask such insightful questions and explain things so well." Thank you, Deanne. See, there's a nice comment. No hate mail. um, so thank you. That's awesome. And remember to share this. Remember to follow and like and hit the thumbs up. When you're on Rumble, you guys, there's a little thumbs up thing that you hit under the video. So when you go on the channel and you hit those thumbs up, apparently they count those in the algorithm. And then also when you come back after the stream has ended, leave comments there on any of the channels that you're watching on, because that helps get the video up in the algorithm. And that's how other people see it. When you comment on it, when you share it, when you're on Facebook or anything like that, share it on your wall. All of that makes a difference. And I'm notorious for just listening in the background, and then I don't always make comments, but the comments really make a difference. The like, subscribe, share, all those buttons and comments, it makes a difference. Okay. I think that's it. So we're going to go back to the Mary Grace screen. That's my website. Get on the mailing list. And I think that's it. We're going to say goodbye. It's been a
Awesome.
great conversation. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. And we will be back soon. We got some good shows coming up this week. So please get on the mailing list, marygracemedia.com. Don't miss a show. We don't have a regular schedule, but we try to put something out 3 to 4 times a week. Have a great day, everybody, and get outside and walk around and get sun on you. Don't stay stuck in the house. Okay, bye.